I'm curious to open up a slightly a new angle here. I'm very fascinated by mystical traditions across the world and other faith traditions, and seeing how, from my limited understanding, these same truths are articulated by almost all the world's traditions, or many of them. I'm wondering if that's something that you're entertaining conceptually, or as a possibility. For me, I see that as part of a messianic paradigm, that it's not just Klal Yisrael through Chassidus that comes to these truths, but it's a universal project, and through each tradition coming to these same truths through their mysticisms, we get to that place universally.
Well, I guess the question is this true of every human being, or just the Chelek Elokah Mima'al Mamish? Yisrael Ereise V'Kudshe B'Richa Kol Echad. All things?
It seems to me, and I'd be curious to know how you would answer that question, but it seems to me that within Chassidus there's different ways of speaking about the relationship between God and reality, and God and certain parts of reality. And at more revealed levels, there are things which are more obviously one with God, such as Torah and Yisrael. But according to my understanding of Chassidus, by definition of God and Atzmos, it cannot exclude anything.
That's true. And that's how it's related. Because you can't exclude. Or in different words, the Nefesh Elikis is a Chelek Elokah Mima'al Mamish. The Nefesh HaBahamis is one with Hashem through its bittul, not through its existence.
Bittul means that it ceases to be?
No. But it gives up its nature or its covering or something.
The way, yeah.
So there are two ways that the Eibishter is the only.
Right.
One is there are things that are him. And then those things that are not him don't have their own reality. So they're connected to him through their bittul, not through their mitzias. Like sins. Are sins part of him? One with him?
It's interesting. You're positing an absence, essentially.
Yeah. Elohim achedim? No. Lo yeh Elohim achedim. If you don't have Elohim achedim, then they are part of Eibishter too.
Is it problematic theologically to posit an absence in God?
An absence of God is not real.
Right.
That's why when these things admit that the absence of God is not real, then they're in touch with the reality.
Right. So the way that we were discussing yesterday is that there are aspects of, let's say, the self, when we speak about Nefesh Elikis, Nefesh Bahamis, and various aspects, there are aspects of the self which are always aware of the self, and that happens in gradations. Right? We speak about the 5 levels of the soul, Yechida being that which is never separated, it's always aware of it, and then all the way down to Yitzhar, Nefesh Bahamis, etc., etc. And those elements of ourselves are the parts of ourselves which are least aware of our true self. But certainly not that they're outside of existence or God, which are the same thing. And bittul, as far as I'm understanding it, is that they have to not be nullified but integrated to realize what their true reality is.
So how is evil one with him?
So, firstly, from a straight Jewish theological stance, unlike Christianity, we do claim that God is the creator of good and evil.
Yeah.
And we bless for both of them.
But we don't say it's him.
Well, I think it might be problematic to say that it's not him. I think what we would be forced to say by the metaphysics of Chassidus is that it is him, because there's nothing that's not him, but it's that of him which is not aware that it's him, or the most concealed of that self-identity. And that needs to be undone, that needs to be reworked.
Right. So the undoing of it
right.
is him. But as long as it's not undone, it's opposite him. It's le'umazeh. In other words, ruach hatuma avir min ha'aretz. You say, well, why does it exist in the first place? So, well, because it is not kedusha and it's not him, that's why it's temporary. It can't be forever because it doesn't. Right? And while it's here in the temporary state, it does have its own existence. No, its existence is that it will stop existing because it is not a likus.
It's interesting. It's interesting that you're saying that. The way that I've understood Chassidus, with far less understanding and years to understand that you have, is that the le'umazeh, that the other side, the sitra achra, literally, is not in the end of the day. It's not annihilated like in some sort of Armageddon, but its true essence is revealed to be incorporated into the divine as one, which is why always the highest levels of evil are shown by Chassidus to be even greater levels of divinity, which cannot manifest in our reality in a pure way.
There's a divine spark there. And that could be higher than all the other sparks in the world. But the condition of klippa, anti, can't exist.
But even the klippa nitzutz dichotomy breaks down lasid lave, or in sort of in the paradigm of atzmos.
It breaks down.
It breaks down, right?
Yeah, and that's the only way to solve the conflict.
Right.
It's got to go.
It's going to be transformed, or it's going to be annihilated.
No, the divine spark that is stuck in it will be redeemed, ransomed.
Right.
It's a good word for today. But the negativity of it, no more. There will be no negativity. Which means that even while it exists, it's not real. It just appears to be.
Interesting. As opposed to seeing that the negative, seeing the true nature of the negative.
So, but that kind of like dismisses the whole subject of bittul. Bittul is such an important part of Hasidus.
No, I wouldn't. I'm not trying to dismiss it. I'm just trying to shift it a little, as opposed to eradication, annihilation, obliteration.
Degrees of bittul.
That instead it's integration. It's coming to see what its true nature is.
Well,
I think even
in overly simplified, Chazir is going to become kosher.
Correct.
How?
Because it always was.
Because it always was?
Yeah.
Then what's the chiddush?
It was hiding very well.
So what's the chiddush?
What's the chiddush?
Uh-huh.
Chiddush is when something that was hiding so well can show its true colors.
So the true colors of a chazir is kedusha.
Well, if the messianic reality is the true one, then we're seeing the truth there, and the truth is that it's kosher.
Well,
No. So it's annihilated. There's no
Well,
chazir.
but
I was
then-
excited for chazir last night.
oh, there will be. It'll be back on the menu, but it won't be a chazir anymore.
What will it be?
It will chew its cud. In other words, when the Eibishter says chazir is bad, he's not joking. It's an abomination. What do you do with an abomination? You eliminate it. All of it? Oh, what about the divine spark that's keeping it alive? Oh, you don't annihilate that. But there's got to be something that, in the degrees of bittul in the world, there are some things that total bittul is the only solution, because it has so little kedusha in it. So if you take out the divine spark, there is nothing left. So it's gone.
It's interesting. It's an interesting stance. To me, the danger in that stance, if I can be frank, firstly, it sounds a lot more. In my limited understanding, it sounds a lot more Neoplatonic than Chassidus, where Neoplatonism simply dismisses evil as absence, as non-being, and Chassidus, from my understanding, was trying to not do that. and if I'm wrong, I'd love to be corrected. To me, the problem is that we then posit things which are, right, and only those things that are in God are, and that can be a small circle. It can be just God, Torah, and Klal Yisrael, and then the rest of existence, when reality is realized, is annihilated because it never existed to begin with. And to me, that's a very dangerous and unhealthy theology. And to me, a theology which posits that all of reality is divine, and that may be very well hidden, but bittul is to reveal that and to integrate it into its divinity, to integrate our shadows. Like, what do we do with the evil inside of us? Are we trying to destroy it, annihilate it, show that it doesn't exist? Or are we trying to do the work to make our darkness turn into light, which is what the Navi says, right? To me, those are two very different paradigms, and I'm kind of scared of where the paradigm that you're indicating goes.
So the Yetzer Hara for sin, it will always be?
According to Chassidus, the Yetzer Hara is always for the Eibishter, right? And the way that it manifests now, no?
Yet Nefesh Bahamas.
Even this is less emphasized in Chassidus Chabad, but in other Chassidus, famously from the Ishbitzer, from Meir Shaleach, that from the Bas Ayin, that Lasad Lavi will see that, which is how Chassidus Chabad understands tshuva as well. We'll see how all of the Averis were simply us desiring to come closer to ourselves, and how they were misdirected.
And what will happen to those Averis?
They'll be turned in, they won't be annihilated. They'll be made zchuyas. They'll be made to the greatest merits. They'll be.
So the Rebbe very specifically says, an Aveda is ungodly, and therefore cannot exist once you take the spark out of it. So what becomes zchuyas is the nitzutz that was in it, not the Aveda. It's like, after Mashiach comes, there won't be a Yetzer Hara for adultery. But there'll still be a possibility. And be mevared it, we'll do it l'shem shamayim. No, it won't exist. It's like the difference between bittul b'metzias and bittul
Hayesh.
Bittul Hayesh. Bittul Hayesh means refine it.
Right.
The only problem is that it's arrogant.
Right.
So take away the arrogance.
Right.
But there are those things they just got to go. That is the lihim achedim. And there's no fixing a lihim achedim.
I'm going to have to give this some thought. We were talking about how, as educators, it's so important to think and to question our beliefs, and not just be in a position always of conviction. To me, I think this is from the Baal Shem Tov. He says that the only Elokim Acherim is to think that there is a possibility for Elokim Acherim. I think the positing of something that's outside of God, that needs to be shown to not exist, is indulging in a certain degree of acosmism, which for me
needs to be shown that it doesn't exist.
Right. Right.
So one day it will not exist.
Right. But that's positing. It's positing a degree of illusoriness.
And yet it serves a purpose.
Right.
What is the purpose?
To bring us closer.
That Hashem echad with a dalid, not acher with a resh. But once that happens and Hashem is echad, then there is no Elohim acherim. It served its purpose. That's it. It's done. And really, that is the difference between the things the Eibishter creates b'rotzen and the things that the Eibishter creates over the shoulder.
Right.
Over the shoulder doesn't mean he doesn't want it. It means he's using it to get to another, as a means to an end.
Right.
Things that are real are not a means to an end. They are the end.
Right.
So every mitzvah is the end.
Right.
It's not supposed to do anything, including connect us to Him. We are connected, and the mitzvah is connected, and it's not doing anything other than being a mitzvah. And the same is true with the Ra. The Ra is really Ra. It does not connect us to him, and the only function that it serves is as a means to get to the Echad. If you eliminate everything else, you get to the Echad. In other words, Milmailo Lamata, you start off with Echad and there is no Acher. Milmata Lamaila, you start off with Acher until you get to the point where there is no Acher. I heard this really beautiful thing. Last week, 2 weeks ago, a television show in Israel. I remember what it's called. I just saw that little clip. There are a couple of guys, hosts, whatever. The main guy, not the religious type, and he is marveling at how all of a sudden everybody's talking about God and everybody's saying Yirtz Hashem and they want tefillin and they want mezuzahs and they want tzitzis. And he says, Zemadhim. It wasn't critical. He was. So the other guy, the other anchor said, yeah, some of my friends, I wouldn't believe it, but they're becoming dati. And the first guy says, Ze lo dati, ze tefillin. That is so good.
He understood it.
He saw it. He saw it. They're not becoming religious.
Right.
They are the same people they were before, but now there's tefillin.
Right.
That's the kol echad in action. Like after Mashiach comes. Are we all going to be frum? No. We're all going to put on tefillin? Of course. That's beautiful. That's Chassidus.